What's up, big baller shot callers? Big Ken here from the Grid to the Rim Sports Talk Show. Normally, we do this show and we have our background, our logo from the Grid to the Rim. I think it's a thumbnail for the live. I can't figure out quite how to get a background like we normally do when we do this through normally we do the show through Zoom. We can choose our background, but still can't quite figure out how to do this live. So if anyone knows about that, please tell me, because I've tried this many times before. But anyways, this is from the Grid to the Rim Sports Talk Show. I'm just trying to go live to see if I can get some viewers live to talk about the upcoming Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is this Sunday. Kansas City Chiefs versus Philadelphia Eagles, a rematch from a couple years ago. Super Bowl a couple years ago was really good. Back and forth. Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts both played well in the last Super Bowl. Obviously, a controversial play at the end of the game. I believe it was either a defensive pass interference or defensive holding call against the Philadelphia Eagles that kind of iced the game. Obviously, that some people thought that call was a good call, and some people said no, let the players decide. That was kind of a minor call, but that's just a matter of opinion. The official saw what he saw. I think the penalty was there. He was holding, but the question is, was he going to get the ball? Because if Patrick Mahomes wasn't looking his way, then maybe it's a good no call. But this is the NFL, and in the NFL, they're playing at the highest level. So high school game might be a no call because they're not the highest level, and it did not affect the play, because we always look if it affected the play or not. But NFL, they might, in NFL way of doing things as a football official, they might say it doesn't matter if it has anything to do with the play or not. If they commit that penalty, we're going to call it every single time. So, anyways, but let me know who you think is going to win the Super Bowl and tell me why. Like I said, try and get some viewers live. If I don't, it's okay. My best friend Monty and I already had a show last week, and we're kind of talking about the Super Bowl a little bit, and we're going to actually go have a show on Saturday afternoon, the day before the Super Bowl. So we'll be rehashing some of these comments again. But like I said, I figure I'll go live today just to see if I can get any live viewers and get some chats going. Let me know your thoughts. Who's going to win the Super Bowl and why? Who you got, KC or the Eagles? Since I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, I kind of want KC to win. And that's another big subject that I put on the header here, or I put on the description for today's live show, is if Patrick Mahomes wins this Super Bowl, be his third Super Bowl win in a row, will he pass Tom Brady as a GOAT? Like I said, Monty and I already talked about this last week. We had our thoughts on it, but I'm trying to get some viewers' thoughts. That's why, like I said, that's why I'm going live again. Do you think Patrick Mahomes will be considered the GOAT if he wins his third Super Bowl in a row? And it'll be his fourth ring overall. I think it'd be like, hasn't Patrick Mahomes been to like 7 AFC championship games in a row? Patrick Mahomes has already won 3 Super Bowls, lost 1, so he's been there. This is actually his 5th time, so he's been there 4 times. He's been there 4 times up until now. So this will be Patrick Mahomes' 5th Super Bowl in 7 years. So he is creating a legacy. I think no one could really argue that. But is it enough to pass Tom Brady? Some people might just go off Super Bowl rings alone, saying Tom Brady has 7. So until Patrick Mahomes beats out Tom Brady and gets the 8th ring, or at least ties him with 7, he's not considered a GOAT. I know some people think that, but some people think, well, that's not the case. Like I said, this is very debatable, very arguable. Like I said, Monty and I talked about this last show, rehashing this, but I just still think it's good to talk about it again now. What makes someone the GOAT, or what makes someone or if someone passes someone as a GOAT, like what what qualifies Patrick Mahomes to pass Tom Brady as the GOAT. Like what do people think about this? My best friend Monty had a really good point last show, and that was a lot of people consider Jordan the GOAT, even though Bill Russell won like 11 rings in a row back like in the 60s and 70s. But like my best friend Monty said, people consider Michael Jordan the GOAT with only 6 rings because the way he played, the era they played. Bill Russell, no disrespect to him, he didn't have a lot of people who can guard him back then. He didn't have quite the competition, but that's not taking anything away from him. That's one thing we're discussing. And Michael Jordan was playing in a much more tougher era. And he also played against the bad boys, Detroit Pistons, with their defense, the Jordan rules against him, where they're fouling the crap out of him. They're just pretty much beating him up. They had Jordan rules to not let him get to the hole, or when he got to the hole, I say they just fouled the crap out of him. Yeah, so there's that, and that's why a lot of people still consider that. Most people consider Jordan the GOAT. I mean, there is talk about LeBron James passing, Michael Jordan as the GOAT, but like my best friend Monty said, that this is kind of like what's the criteria for a GOAT debate, do you have to have the same amount of rings as or more to be considered the GOAT? That's the $1,000,000 question. And like I said, this is all very debatable. Other subject: who should be the MVP? Again, I talked about this again, but I'm rehashing it again. Broken record here, but and it's still another good subject. I personally think Saquon Barkley should be the MVP, but the question is should the playoffs count towards MVP voting? That's the question. So what's your thoughts on that? I think the playoffs does have something to do with it. I don't think you necessarily have to get all the way to the Super Bowl, but I think to be considered the MVP, you at least have to get your. Might be kind of harsh, but you at least have to get your team to the playoffs. But at the same time, it could be debatable and arguable that, hey, there's been some guys that had amazing regular seasons. It's not their fault. They play on a bad team, but they are the best person in their position, the best player in their position. But they're not in the playoffs because the rest of their team isn't very good, whatever the case may be. Or they had a lot of injuries or whatever, new coach, whatever they got going on. So I think Saquon Barkley has done enough in the regular season to be the MVP. And then if you add the playoffs to it, what he's done in the playoffs, rushing for a crazy amount of yards, a 200-yard plus rushing game in the playoffs, 2 other 100-yard rushing games. He hasn't been under 100 yards in the playoffs so far in the 3 games this season, this playoffs. So I just think it's icing on the cake. I think he was already the MVP because he rushed over 2,000 yards in the regular season, not playing the 17th game. He played in only 16 games. So people might say, well, he played an extra game. That's why he got over 2,000 yards. He did this in 60 games. He sat out. He decided to sit out the 17th game and not try to break Eric Dickerson's record. So he 1,000 yards in 16 games. I think that in itself is enough to be the MVP. Like I said, then you add the playoffs, and it's just like, okay, now he's just adding more to it. So that's where I'm at. Other topics: Taylor Swift. We talked about this last year's Super Bowl show. I had several of us on my show from the Grid to the Rim sports talk show. Several guests for our Super Bowl talk last year, and we were joking around about Taylor Swift, and there was some people think she's a fan just like anyone else. She's done nothing wrong. So why are people talking about her so much? It's just a waste of time. It's more the media being the media more than it is, Taylor Swift. And that's probably true. Like I said, we're talking about this last year. But at the same time, I can understand why some people are just basically like completely annoyed. Like every time Travis Kelce makes a good play, they got to highlight Taylor Swift. It kind of goes both ways. And the funny thing, last year I was sitting in at Buffalo Wild Wings during Kansas City, one of Kansas City's playoff games. And it was so funny. It was a mixed crowd. you had some people that are kind of pissed off, like, "Oh my God, don't show Taylor Swift, go back to the game." And then you had some people cheering her on, like, "Yeah, you go, girl," especially some of the women. And that's the thing, that's the question. That was another thing that was brought up last year by one of my other guests on the show is Taylor Swift has brought in a crazy amount of money to the NFL, and she's brought in different viewers. So she's brought in different demographics. She's expanded the viewership in the NFL, so to speak. So Roger Goodell absolutely loves her. He thinks she's the best thing since sliced bread, um, because she's making him even richer than what he already is. Um, so there's that effect too. So it's kind of an old topic. There's some people that still don't like a Taylor Swift Super Bowl. I have some friends that think that, and they have every right to think that, and they're great friends. They're some of my best friends, and they're like, "Oh my God, another Taylor Swift Super Bowl," because obviously the Kansas City Chiefs, edged out the Buffalo Bills in a very good AFC Championship game, and nailed by a game-winning field goal with 3.5 minutes to go, and Buffalo had their chances, but they just didn't do much, unfortunately, when they got the ball back. I was wondering if Buffalo Bills would kind of finally break their curse, but they're just with us Dallas Cowboy fans. Like, that curse is still ongoing, man. When is the Dallas Cowboys and the Buffalo Bills gonna break this curse? That's another question. Obviously, me being a Dallas Cowboys fan, I hope sooner rather than later. But I've been hoping this for almost 30 years now, and I swear to God, I hope it's not another 30 years. I don't think it will be, but we've had our chances in the past. I knew we didn't have a chance this year, but we've had some pretty good teams within the last 2 or 3 years, except with the exception of this year where I thought we might be able to do it, but this didn't happen, obviously. So is Dak Prescott? That's another question. Is Dak Prescott's um, time running out in Dallas Cowboys world? What do you think about that? Is Dak Prescott going to be the quarterback with Dallas for the next couple of years? I know he obviously signed a contract recently, a new contract, one of the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Some people think it's crazy, but that's the way it's going right now. Because the Cleveland Browns quarterback, Deshaun Watson, was the guy before him, and he had a horrible year and got hurt. So that's just kind of the thing right now, the latest and greatest kind of deal. All right, Kendrick Lamar. Uh, we will talk about this on Saturday's show, our pregame show. A lot of controversy around Kendrick Lamar being the halftime performer. I'm personally okay with it. I don't know all this stuff going on with Drake, but I know there's a huge thing going on with Drake. Drake has a lawsuit against him because he's big. I think Kendrick Lamar had said some things about him being a pedophile or something in one of his songs or something. His album "Not Like Us" or something, or I think his halftime show is something called like "Not Like Us." And I apologize, I don't know a whole lot about Kendrick Lamar. I do know some of his songs, obviously, because he's obviously him and Drake are really big in hip hop the last several years, and they used to be really good friends, from what I remember. But like the past couple of years, they've been feuding, and it's getting really bad. So, what's your thoughts on Kendrick Lamar? Some people actually probably just don't even care. They only care about the game itself, and when it's the halftime show, they're not even going to watch it. That's their break to go get more food and go to the bathroom and whatever they need to do, take care of some errands real quick before the second half starts. Um, but I like the halftime shows. I pay attention to them usually. I will pay attention to this one because I like Kendrick Lamar. I have songs I like from Kendrick Lamar and Drake. Both really talented. I'm gonna watch it because I do know some of his songs. I'm gonna pay attention to it. But yeah, it's interesting with what's going on around Drake and Kendrick Lamar. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna watch it. I know a couple years ago, I personally like because it's more of my genre is when they brought out Snoop Dogg and all those guys, Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre, because that's what I used to listen to back like in the early '90s and the mid '90s, and when I was in high school and after I joined the Navy. Those are some of the people I was paying attention to, and that was like an LA Super Bowl, so it made sense to bring in some, LA rappers, from South Central. So I personally loved it because that brought back a lot of good memories with my friends and I when I was back during that time frame when these guys were, singing those songs, So or rapping, I should say. But I loved it. So, anyways, can't quite get no dang viewers on here. I had one guy live for a second, and he got off really quickly. Um, but I don't have anyone live. One of the purposes of this live show is just to promote, the show we're gonna do this Saturday for the pregame Super Bowl talk with me and my best friend, or myself and my best friend, proper English here, but yeah, and just promote the show in general, from the Grid to the Rim Sports Talk Show. Because I think we were doing good for a while. Like my best friend and I started the show, and his nephew, another really good friend of mine, Dwayne. We started this show during March Madness a couple years ago, and we've been having fun doing it. Obviously, we're just everyday guys, everyday Joes. We're not like Travis Kelce, the Kelce brothers, having a podcast, and that's why people don't know us. But we have the point of view just from everyday guys who watch sports, and what our thoughts are on things, just from normal guys. So that may or may not be popular, but hey, the way I look at it is the fans are important to the game, right? Watching the game, helping pay these players paychecks, paying ridiculous prices to go to games. So I think people should watch our show because yeah, the normal guys like us are important to these athletes being multimillionaires and making crazy, ridiculous amounts of money. We don't have the inside perspective being former players and playing at that level, but we are athletes in our own right. I played high school sports, so did my best friend, so did his nephew, who did the show with us starting a couple years ago, Dwayne. So and we have good sports knowledge for everyday guys. We like sports. We enjoy sports, and that's why we like talking about it. On our show, from the Grid to the Rim. So, anyways, I'll close. Since I didn't get anyone live, I've been on for like a little over 17 minutes, but I thought I'd try it out because today was a snow day, like I said. But couldn't go to work today, so why not go live? But anyways, please watch our show this Saturday for the pregame Super Bowl talk, and leave comments, and like I said, let us know who you think's going to win the Super Bowl and why. Just don't say who's going to win, but tell me why you think they're going to win, and answer some of these other questions about the MVP. Do you think Patrick Mahomes will be the new GOAT if he wins 3 in a row, and it'll be his 4th ring? Tying. If that's one thing I'll say before I close. If Mahomes wins the Super Bowl, and someday it'll be his 4th ring, so he'll tie some pretty famous quarterbacks, 2 of them, Joe Montana and Terry Bradshaw. And then the only other person ahead of him is obviously Tom Brady with 7. But if he gets his 4th one on Sunday, Patrick Mahomes will be in some very elite company himself. And he's already in some elite company, already having 3 rings. Now, a whole lot of guys have 3 rings. I mean, Troy Aikman is one I know of, but there's not a whole lot. Most guys just have 1 or 2, and a lot of players have none. There's been a lot of good quarterbacks in the NFL that don't have a single ring. Dan Marino is one of them. And they consider him one of the all-time greats. So, anyways, I'll close, but please watch the show and take care of yourselves. And I hope you guys have a great weekend and watch Super Bowl. Have fun with friends and family, whoever you're close to, whoever you want to watch, the Super Bowl with. Please do that, and you have fun and take care of yourselves. God bless.